This podcast is being recorded on the lands of the Wurundjeri and Boonwurrung peoples of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and acknowledge their ongoing connection to land, waters, and culture. Sovereignty was never ceded. This always was, and always will be, Aboriginal land. Welcome to The Least We Can Do, a podcast about the housing system, what's wrong with it, and what you can do about it. I'm Hugh.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Michelle.
Welcome back to The Least We Can Do. Last time we unpacked how to exercise your legal rights when things go wrong. Today we zoom in on youth housing insecurity. So we'll look at what makes the youth experience of housing precarity unique, what structural issues drive it, and most importantly, what can be done about it. So to begin with, I'll just have a quick stat. So 23% of homeless Victorians are aged 12 to 24.
Jesus.
Wow.
Yeah. And yet youth homelessness, is still wholly, widely misunderstood. Many people picture someone sleeping rough on the streets, so someone, sleeping in a tent or like in a sleeping bag or something on the street. But less than 7% of homeless people actually are sleeping rough. So for young people, housing insecurity more often looks more like couch surfing or staying in like unsafe rentals, churning through temporary places, or being stuck in unsafe family situations. And that's actually taken from the ABS statistics as well. So Elkins and colleagues put it as structural factors expose vulnerable groups to homelessness more than others. And so we're going to understand what youth housing insecurity really looks like. So youth homelessness is more complex than statistics let on.
Isn't everything?
That is true, yeah. That is true. Statistics do hide a lot, don't they? So Elkins and others described 4 different housing typologies experienced by young people. So the first typology, it's those in relatively stable housing, that is renting or owning. But even here, 6.85% have slept rough at least once during their homing experience. So typology 2 is the churners, as I've called it. So that's the people that are constantly going through different housing or temporary housing or emergency housing. So they're always constantly moving between different forms of housing, from staying with friends, couch surfing, sleeping rough, whatever it may be. This group is considered the most insecure in this study. Typology 3, young people living with extended family, long-term. And this one's a big one because it can mask insecurity and is often not visible in statistics as well because they're counted as being sort of stable.
Yeah.
In the statistics.
When we're talking about living with extended family, that's not staying with parents. That's like...
Yeah, so you're
staying with other relatives.
Yeah, so your auntie, your uncle, your grandparents,
right.
cousins, things like that. Yeah. And typology 4 is youth living with their parents but occasionally moving elsewhere. So this group appears most stable, but they can still face challenges themselves as well. And so...
Oh, yeah, that was me. I moved out.
Do you want to speak more?
I moved out fairly late in the piece as far as I certainly wasn't moving out nearly as early as a lot of my peers, but after moving out I bounced around rentals for a bit. They were mostly stable, all share houses, but right as COVID hit, everything went euphemisms, insert your own euphemisms, right? You know how it was.
Went pear-shaped.
Yeah, it all went pear-shaped. Thank you. I was thinking of something that didn't involve vulgar anatomy. And I was like, well, I can't afford to stay where I am. I can't keep trying to look for other rentals. This is all going to be too much. And I had to move back in with my folks, which ended up being for the best considering the state of lockdowns. I suspect the last share house I was in would have ended in criminal action if we'd all been forced to stay with each other for day in, day out for a year and a half.
Okay. So you would say that's a unsafe situation?
It was going to be, yeah. And that was also influential in my decision to move back in.
Okay. So looking at these typologies is important because churning through different housing types can hinder both educational and economic outcomes. And it just reveals how damaging unstable housing can be for youth development.
Yeah, because that's like changing schools and not being
Correct.
able to like get to a stable job, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And even just simple things like, you know, the friend groups that you have at school, right? Like, you know, at a young age, you're really leaning on like having a friend group at school because that really forms a lot of your like early character development because you're spending so much time at school as well,
Yeah,
or kindergarten, anything like that.
Yeah.
And no opportunity to build a community, like those social
Correct.
connections, but also like if you have an extracurricular group like your sporting team and all that exposure to different parts of your community support system that you just never get to develop.
Correct. And I guess on that too, you might have extended family nearby too that you might lean on for your support network as well. So you might be moving away from your grandparents, you know, or siblings that live outside of home and things like that you might otherwise depend on. So yeah, it's a huge thing that sort of stunts youth development quite a bit. And like I said in my last episode, there was a statistic saying like moving around, like it's a well known and studied phenomena that, you know, constantly moving kids around is not good for the development.
Yeah, it's really bad for them.
And so what exactly is causing this? And so we found that most of the causes are outside of young people's control. And this includes things like early life trauma and neglect of systemic factors like higher rents, low wages, reduced welfare, or youth navigating a harsh terrain of the housing support network. Because Della, Zawana, and Dobson argue that adult-centric housing systems are not set up to support young people. It fails to recognise the development needs of youth, including the need for flexibility, community, and dignity.
Yeah.
And is that when we're talking about youth accessing support on their own or in their own right, or is it also when we're talking to family units considering the factors that impact the youth?
I'd say it's both.
Yeah.
So it impacts both. Because I think part of that as well is that if the kids are moving constantly, say if the parents are in a precarious housing situation themselves, they might have issues accessing things as well if they're always constantly moving, you know.
Yeah.
So say if they're moving into different council areas, for example, you know, councils are going to have different things set up for homelessness.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's going to be different organisations, different charity groups and things like that, NGOs that work in, you know, that have partnerships of different councils and things.
Yeah, true.
So and no oversight over the family unit and the youth that are engaged either, because if you, like you said, you've moved different organisation, different case management or support, then there's no kind of like consideration maybe of what was happening before, no kind of continuity.
Yeah, like this particularly for like really young kids, right? Like all of your sort of maternal child health appointments and stuff are through council.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
So like, you know, if like I have a 3-year-old and like if we'd moved like in the last year, there would be like there'd be a huge break between the stuff from earlier and the stuff from now, and it'd probably be in a different health network.
And it's not easy to access your files as well. A lot of medical centres, you have to go through quite a stringent FOI, you know, freedom of information request, which can be quite a headache in itself.
That's
I mean, I went through that myself trying to access my mental health records, and it's not a pretty thing to do.
No, it's complicated as hell.
And it's not a pretty thing to look at your own file as well.
Oh, I bet.
No. So the 2025 Youth at Homeless Assembly, they echoed this sentiment, and they highlighted how the system relies on luck, basically. So youth are sort of depending on having a good caseworker assigned to them.
Yeah.
Right. And then sometimes they don't get a good caseworker, and that mightn't be the caseworker's fault. They might be like overworked themselves, underpaid even as well, underfunded. And that, you know, they might just be having a bad day even, because this is very stressful work. You know, these are people's lives depend on these people. So it is a very stressful work. So, and yeah, it's just quite an underfunded area, and it's sort of a little bit swept under the rug by governments as well. Like, we hear of homelessness all the time, quite a bit in the media, but we don't hear of youth homelessness a lot, or it's not highlighted a lot. It's not shown a lot to us.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it sort of echoes that adult-centric sort of thing of homelessness. And, yeah, so rather than having this stable structure, it's sort of a structure based on luck. And so they also found the biggest driver of youth homelessness was family violence as well.
Yeah.
So having, an unstable home will often... the young person will often, they'll often run away from home or something like that if they're facing, family violence at home.
Yeah.
So that's what they found. Like, family violence was the number one thing that affected youth's homelessness. So Dina Tarlo, who led the Youth Homelessness Assembly, she states, "We know housing someone sleeping rough is better for. We know housing someone sleeping rough is better for them, and better for our communities, both socially and economically, and that we will not be better. We won't be better off moving rough sleepers along."
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like they did studies as well, and looked at studies as well where they found that when you sort of move homeless people along, that does more damage to them long term.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you're sort of sending the signal to them. You're telling them, look, you're just sort of a piece of trash that can be sort of tossed away and forgotten about.
Yeah, and you're like disrupting all of their social networks and like access to their support.
So you can imagine if it's done to a young person who doesn't really have that broader understanding, and these adults are supposed to be like guardians to them, basically helping them. You can imagine how shattering that is to a young child.
Definitely,
or even like a young teenager or a young adult.
Yeah, because they haven't had the chance to establish that community, that support, those connections at all yet. So then if you they're moving around, then they'll never get those skills. Because it is a skill to build your community and those connections.
It is,
that,
it is.
Like, is part of your development. So, if you don't get that opportunity, you can imagine that would manifest into adulthood as well.
For sure, yeah. And so what can we actually do about this sort of adult-centric system that seems to sort of ignore like youth homelessness almost, or treat it as a adult problem rather than a youth problem? And so Elkins and others recommended a hybrid policy approach, one that recognises both individual vulnerabilities as well as structural constraints. So each youth topology should have its own tailored sort of needs.
Yeah.
So looking at a more holistic approach where it looks at the sort of an individual case-by-case thing rather than sort of tarring everyone with the same brush and going, all right, this has worked for this person, surely this will work for you, which is, as we know in a lot of cases, that's just not the case.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about that in our final episode about intersectionality, about how important it is to be having those tailored supports. It's not just place-based, it's also about the individual, because even if you're a youth within one of those typologies, there's still so many other factors that are contributing to your experience.
So this approach will sort of, it's sort of a mixture of the two. It wants to do place-based as well as, the individual thing. So it tries to get sort of a more holistic picture, basically. Yeah, a more whole picture.
Yeah.
So the stated examples I had were stable renters or owners. They need to improve affordability and access to jobs for that typology. Typology 2, the churners, was to offer housing first programs, better crisis support, and parental assistance.
Yeah.
For those living with extended family, typology 3 was expanded alternative housing options. For youth at home, it was programs to support smooth transitions to independence.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I think that's a really big hurdle as well, is that it's very, like, speaking from my own experience, you get very comfortable at home and you get very codependent on your parents and your family.
Yeah, and
that's not necessarily a bad thing, but in a society that wants to push you to be
independent.
You need to have those skills.
Yeah, and the skills development is obviously a huge part of it, but also it's like with jobs, right? How you need experience to get experience, right? If you don't have rental history, it's way harder to get onto a lease, to find somewhere to rent that isn't potentially sort of joining up to an existing share house, doing all that kind of potentially exploitative. And I mean, that's part of what exposes young people to exploitation and danger, right? Is that you can't get at least the traditional way and be responsible on your own, you have to start going through sublets and co-tenancies and like stuff that's mediated by other people.
Correct, yeah.
In a mostly unregulated way. Not that the regulated way is necessarily less exploitative, but
you can't put in those protections, even if you know you're going into a riskier situation in your renting. That's the pathway to access.
Yeah,
there isn't good access in the ways that you know are going to be less risky.
Yeah, exactly. You can't go out and like it's very rare that you can go out and independently rent somewhere with no history, and if you can, it's probably not a great place.
Yeah,
that's a really, really good point. So that's why for me that one's a really important one, because so like, for example, say like you're living at home and something happens to your parents, they can't work anymore, they've lost their home maybe, or maybe your parents have passed away and now you've left to your own devices. What do you do then? You've been dependent on your parents or maybe your siblings or someone else your whole life, and then all of a sudden you're sort of thrown to the wolves without any knowledge whatsoever or any experience.
You're trying to like navigate the like jumping the gap from like living at home to like independent renting, and like I basically like bounced back, but fortunately like I had the safety net of my parents for when like my rent, like when I started struggling in the rental market, and that's not the case for everyone, right? Like especially, people moving into the city from the country, young people who've relocated in search of like work or study or all of that, and don't have that immediate kind of safety net. They're hugely at risk, even if they're in like quote unquote stable situations.
Yeah, that is a really, really good point. So now to speak more broadly as well, we need to build more public housing, as I've said in a previous episode as well.
Yeah, we're going to keep saying it, I bet.
Because social housing is not the same as public housing. We have to stress that. Rents are very much higher in social housing because it's pretty much a quasi-private enterprise that's happening there.
Yeah.
And tenants' protections are much less in this situation as well.
Yeah.
As you've gone into in your episode as well. So actually Infrastructure Victoria, a government body, actually recommends building 60,000 public homes and to invest in trauma-informed services and to strengthen youth-specific housing pathways. And this includes funding holistic support that follows youth across education, employment, health, and as well as well-being as well.
Yeah.
So it's trying to, as I said, trying this sort of really holistic approach where it's both individualized but also like broadly based and place-based.
Yeah.
And to end on that point, Dalla, Zawana and Dobson also put it that the topology approach holds young people through social and development change without having them fall into the experience of homelessness.
Yeah.
And so youth housing insecurity isn't inevitable. It's the result of political choices, but it can be challenged. So if you join a tenants union like Rahu, you can show up at a local council meeting, make your voice heard at local council meetings, support friends through transitions if you can.
Yeah, that's huge.
And advocate for policies that recognise housing as a right and not a reward for discipline.
Yeah.
Yeah, or not a investment for an elite person to put over you as well, to make you feel unworthy, because everyone is worthy of a safe home.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You mentioned the Youth Homelessness Council, was it?
Yes. So that's the Homeless Council of Victoria.
The Homeless Council of Victoria have like a youth section.
They do, yeah. And they work directly with homeless youth.
Yeah.
And they work directly with service providers.
Yeah.
As well as charities, the government as well. So they have an annual meeting, I'm not sure where, but obviously somewhere in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And this includes service providers like from the country as well. So not just Melbourne-based, this is the whole state. And so they come together and they form strategies of how they want to work, together. So actually, it's good that you pointed this out, because one of the key things was trying to get rid of overlap, which goes back to, as I was saying, when you move around in different jurisdictions.
Yeah.
So the idea is trying to make a more sort of whole system where it's easier for these service providers to access the same database rather than having all these databases that repeat the information or might have different information, inconsistent information. Yeah. And so you stop getting that sort of crossover where the work is doubled. So there's a lot of doubling of work in this section. And that also ties back to workers being overworked. If they're looking at cases, the same cases, and then, or they can't get the proper information, it just makes their work a lot harder, and it makes the outcome a lot worse for young people as well.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Can we support the Homelessness Council of Victoria? Do they take donations or?
That's a good question. I think they do. I think they do take donations, and they're always looking for people to work with as well. So anyone that has expertise or knowledge to add, they're happy to hear people's voices. Because you can attend these meetings as well. You can. I'm not sure if they're free. They might be
ticketed.
Yeah. I think concession. Probably.
No, fair.
Because obviously they need money to do what they can do as well.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and in a way that's a donation in itself.
But yeah, they put a lot of pressure on government to try and incite change at a policy level, and they do a lot of good work. They have a monthly or weekly newsletter that you can look at as well. It's to see what they're doing and all the work they're doing in the community as well. So they have some grassroots programs that they help to fund and run. But yeah, they're a great group to look at to see what's going on, and they try to be the umbrella group of all these service providers.
Well, that's what I was going to say is look at them, and then you might find an organisation that does like a really specific service that maybe you share like an experience with or you're passionate about. So it's also a good way to then access other organisations that you're interested in working with. Yeah. Or exploring something in your local area. So it's a good kind of way to see what else is out there under that umbrella.
Yeah.
And and did you both have any questions or anything else to add at all, or anything?
I've been throwing them at you as we've gone along.
No, that was really comprehensive, and I like that we've ended on an action point because it can be really heavy, the stuff that we're talking about, especially when we were talking about the systems. System change is really difficult, so it's nice that we're finishing on something that ways that we can help and make a difference in our own way.
Cool.
All right, so that has been The Least We Can Do, episode 3. And next episode we'll be talking more, probably more into intersectionality, so looking at different groups and how different outcomes affect homelessness more specifically. And tune in.
This has been The Least We Can Do. All the resources we've discussed in each episode are going to be linked in the show notes, so head on down there and take a look at those if you need to do some more reading. We'd like to thank everyone who's worked with us, particularly our media production team, and we'd like to thank you for listening.